Welcome to an episode of Crippled by Culture, where we talk about everything in life and related to the disabled and chronically ill community. My name is Sean Gold, and I am an author, advocate, and nonverbal public speaker for the disability community. To provide a quick visual description for accessibility, I am a Black man with a white tracheostomy breathing tube in my neck. I am wearing a green camouflage shirt. The person off camera is who you hear speaking for me. This video is of a Zoom call with me and the person talking for me off camera, and my guest is in the other box next to me. Today, I would like to thank Jonathan Moore for being my voice in this episode. In this episode, we are talking about the interactions of disability and ableism within nonprofits.
Before we get any further into the interview, I want to give a shout out to our partnering nonprofit festival for the series, Festability. As the media director, I help organize a wonderful event in St. Louis at the Missouri History Museum. We have so many activities and vendors set up all over with an amazing headliner for our main stage each year. It is the best event in St. Louis to celebrate your disability unapologetically while celebrating the Americans with Disabilities Act. Make sure you come out if you're nearby. Check out the link in the description to learn more. Thank you Festability for sponsoring the series. Now, back to the show.
So let's get to today's amazing guest. Emma Farley is a 30-year-old woman based in Brooklyn, New York, who is a wheelchair user with a form of muscular dystrophy. She's currently enrolled in the Disability Studies program at CUNY and host of a podcast called Unsilent, set to be launched in early 2024, where she will take an intersectional approach to discussing disability-related topics. Emma, thank you for being here today. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. So it's Emma speaking. My pronouns are she, her, and a visual description. I'm a white cisgender female in my early 30s. I'm a wheelchair user, and I have long wavy brown hair, and I'm wearing a light cream colored sweater, long sleeve sweater. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome, appreciate that. And that's a nice sweater. First off, do you identify with having a disability or chronic illness?
Yes, I was born disabled. I've been disabled my whole life. I have a physical disability, and I'm also neurodivergent. I have ADHD and dyscalculia, which is like a form of dyslexia. And then I have muscular dystrophy, which is the physical disability.
Okay. How does your disabilities affect your everyday life?
Well, my physical disability, muscular dystrophy, that affects every physical task that I do. It affects my everyday life because I'm a wheelchair user. My body functions in a way that is not, that doesn't fit the way the world was designed for. So that's definitely creates barriers. I would say that, again, most of the disabling part of my disabilities, all of them are not so much like they don't exist because of the conditions themselves, but really in the inaccessible world. So yeah, it's really just so physically with muscular dystrophy, it's the inaccessibility that, affects me. And with ADHD and dyscalculia, there's inaccessibility issues there too, but it's also the way people view and treat those who are disabled. Those also are really the barriers. But I guess if I was thinking about like on a very literal sense, I don't know. I just function like the way I function. Like, yeah.
They just living over here.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy officially at 4 years old through a muscle biopsy. Um,
Mhm.
I had a few of those because they didn't really, doctors, I have a very rare form of muscular dystrophy, and doctors back when I was born or when I was young, they couldn't narrow it down quite yet. So they just called it congenital muscular dystrophy the first few years of my life. And then they started to call it limb-girdle, but that wasn't right either. But then when I was 22, I got genetic testing done, and they concluded that I have like this super rare kind. There's only like I think two other people that have been diagnosed with it. It's called a collagen VI related myopathy. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so it's like I said, there's not much information on it because there hasn't been many. There's been like three people diagnosed.
Wow.
Yeah, but and then the ADHD and dyscalculia, those diagnoses were later in life. I had neuropsych testing done in middle school, and that's what the finding was, but they didn't really give specific the ADHD they came up with that, but dyscalculia, I don't think they had a name for it at that point. I think they just called it like a math related like disability. That's what my mom said, and so but as an adult I've done research on it, and
Mhm.
it now has a name. So
Tell me, how did it feel to, keep getting those incorrect diagnoses?
you know mostly, I mean, like muscular dystrophy, it didn't bother me that much because I knew I had like the area code, it wasn't
Mhm.
like we had an area code, which was
Right.
good. And there's so many different types. And so I knew, knowing that it was muscular dystrophy gave me enough information. I know that what's happening in my body is, I know that it's inherited. I know that it's, causes the, muscles to weaken and waste away over time. I knew that it was degenerative, like all those things. Really the specific diagnosis just gave me like some more, some, you know, additional details, but the big picture stuff, I always kind of knew because it's consistent throughout all the types. With the ADHD and dyscalculia, like, you know, it was like, again, those were not so much incorrect, but they were so slow. And I think that was frustrating to get those later in life because I think maybe I would have had an easier time navigating school or
Right.
feeling, I would have had some more. I really thought I was kind of stupid, like, or I knew I was
Mhm.
smart, but I was very frustrated. I didn't know why I was, I mean, math, I was like, I don't really care. I don't get it and I don't care. But like, I got bad grades in school, like it was such a struggle. And I just was like, why can't I, like, what is this? And why can't I get this, because my grades did not reflect my level of intelligence. And I just, it definitely, it hurt my confidence a lot. And then I just also didn't know what I needed, like, and if there was any, um, accommodations that would make, learning better or just functioning or, and I didn't know what those were. And yeah, and I got zero guidance on it even after the diagnosis. Like there was just nothing. That was completely on my own that I figured that out.
Yep. Man, thank you for sharing that. Did you have to go through your own internalized ableism?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think if you're born like in this world, like if anybody says they haven't struggled with that, they're lying. I mean, come on. Like if you're disabled, like you haven't struggled with that, like that's nuts. I think, yeah, of course. With my physical disability, it was like having a body that functioned differently, looked differently. I used to really try and hide it. When I was younger, I wasn't always a wheelchair user. When I was in elementary school, I was able to move around independently.
Hmm.
But I would limp, or it's like a waddling gait. It had but I would really try and like not walk that way. I would try and like walk the way others did. You know, I have some, like some of the way some of my body structure is impact a little bit, like my joints. Like I can't straighten my arms all the way. Like my hands have poor dexterity, and that, so I would always try and just hide that. Like even like I can't like straighten both like all the fingers to like clap the way others do. So I used to kind of hide if I like holding something and clap. Like it was just the weirdest things I would try and do to like hide it. And then with, you know, like the ADHD, it just, I would just chalk it up to like me being like crazy old Emma. Like, it was just, I was always kind of outgoing and funny. So that was easy to kind of like make, like normalize, I guess. But dyscalculia, like, oh, numbers, anything like looking at an analog clock and not being able to like immediately, if it would take me more than 3 seconds, I'd get really like self-conscious. Getting a bill, like, and having to do like the, because I would be embarrassed if I had to take out a calculator. I oftentimes just, I would make weird excuses, even in adulthood, like getting the bill, I'd be like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. Can you do the bill for me? Like, here's my card. Like, I'd like, make some excuse. I don't know, just weird stuff. Yeah, that all came from internalized ableism. And then, just not like feeling the need to, or even with ADHD and dyscalculia, like not seeing those as disabilities, because muscular dystrophy was, that fits within, society's understanding of disability. That's the standard. I mean, but especially when I became a wheelchair user, then it was even more like, okay, now I'm in that, stereotype. So yeah, but the other ones, I felt like it wasn't enough. And so it was sort of like, and I almost didn't want to talk about them because they didn't feel welcome as disabilities. So then what were they? And that was like hard. Like I was like, I'm proud of my disability, like of muscular dystrophy, like, that I gotta, I struggled with other people's treatment, but my foundation was that it's as normal and natural as me having brown hair and blue eyes. So that's what I knew deep down, even if I struggled at any point. But ADHD and like dyscalculia, I felt like they were really like bad traits, like they were all negative, and they weren't even disabilities. So they were just like things that I needed to fix. Like, I don't know.
So tell me about that. Like, what was your journey like towards the inner acceptance?
I think being, when I was my transition from being having my muscular dystrophy be, easy for, well, I thought I hit it well. I don't know if that's actually the case, but I thought I was pretty good at
Right.
But going from that to not being able to conceal it and being forced to like, all right, like this is not, you have to like, it kind of forced me to go on that journey in that way. And it was just, I always allowed myself to feel what I wanted to feel. But I guess really what helped me was, I guess, just finding community. I don't know. Like I feel that, I most of my time is spent around non-disabled people or people that aren't, upfront about it. So I don't know. And that can make you feel like something's wrong with you. But the more I expose myself to the disability community, the more that I spent time there, the more that I listened to other people. And I don't know, that made a huge difference for me because, I like, I just reflect on like how I saw those people, like how I saw my friends with disabilities. Like, do I see them as like wrong, or do I see them as ugly, or do I see them as like, stupid or whatever? No, I didn't. They were my friends. So it kind of like sent the message to me like, all right, well then why is that different for me? Like, like, do I go by separate rules? No. Like, so that's kind of, I think, just being around the community and like recognizing and being aware of like how I saw people, so that, giving me like that's true for me too then.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I like that you brought up that the disabilities that we don't see, that are not external, that, we don't even count them as disabilities, even though they are. I really like that. Really like that. Let me ask you, what has just kind of stuck with you through, just coming from trying to, disguise your disability to the inner acceptance? What are some of the things that have just really stuck with you from
Um, just I love how freeing it is, like, to just be yourself. I think we live in a world where everybody's trying to fit into a box or a mold,
that?
especially like, even in like I just, left a like the most corporate job, like the most corporate environment. It was, ugh. And everybody was trying to like, and not needing to go there. I didn't need to be that, like, I didn't apply for an acting position. All right. Like, I'm not trying to, I, and I guess it just feels kind of, although I do suffer consequences. I mean, well, I'm treated poorly, or less, because I am authentic, because I, am expecting people to respect that, and to, I, I take space, I take up space, and I demand that
Mhm.
space. And I know that everybody, and I don't know, I guess it's just like being in that. I think that's something a lot of people, even like non-disabled people, really just can't. It's a real struggle for a lot of people, and I just feel now I'm like, it just feels really freeing to feel like I like who I am. I, and I don't want to be anybody else ever.
Yeah. Comfortable in your own skin. I like that.
And
I
I'm not
really.
perfect. Like, I still, like, there are days when I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, like, I do not look cute. Like, or I'll just, everybody's got those days. I'm not like this enlightened, like no, I, I'm still a human, but overall um, I feel happy. And I know that when I'm faced with, you know, when somebody treats me in a way and it makes me sort of feel self-conscious, or I'm like, you know, I have that foundation to go back to. Like, no, they're wrong. Like,
Mhm. Yeah. You know who you are.
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your involvement in the disability community and the nonprofits. How long have you been involved with nonprofits?
My whole life. Being muscular dystrophy, one of the biggest, nonprofits that's disability related in the United States is the Muscular Dystrophy Association. We had this
Mhm.
with the telethon and all that. It's um, you know, if you're diagnosed with muscular dystrophy in the United States, like the doctors will immediately connect you with MDA. I mean, they're it's like you can't have that diagnosis without MDA, like, getting their fingers, getting their grip on you, like,
Gotcha.
and so, yeah, from an early age, you know, they really emphasize, or they use children as a tool in fundraising. They're known
Mhm.
for that, the
Mm.
MDA. And so I grew up like I was recruited to be a regional Goodwill ambassador. Fundraisers, they would want me in front of the cameras, they'd want me, all of that stuff. They really, the main tool for their fundraising is children with muscular, well, certain types of children. It's it's a very specific, they want to paint a very specific picture. So children who look like me, that are white, cisgender, they are skinny, and they are like, they have that, have bows in their hair, and talk a certain way. Yeah. Um,
Mm.
it's so there's it's yeah. Um, so yeah, I was definitely, MDA sought me out immediately upon that diagnosis. And um the it I went to the camps, I went to their fundraisers. Like I said, I was a Goodwill ambassador. For me, I wanted to be seen and heard, and I felt it was sort of like brainwashing. It sort of felt like I knew early on, by the time they had, I started to get involved on act,
Mm.
I had known how the world, I already felt silenced by the world, ignored, or like, just pushed to the side. And
Right.
so this organization coming to me and saying, no, we want you, like, we want to center you. As a kid, I'm not even gonna question that. I'm gonna say, oh yeah, and they're a nonprofit, like what we
Mm-hmm.
understand about nonprofits, what we're taught is like, there's no reason why wouldn't I have trusted them? Um,
Right.
and my parents too. I mean, they're very intelligent, and I think they just really wanted me to feel connected, but I don't think they ever felt connected to MDA. I think they felt weirded out by them. Um, I think, you know, yeah, they didn't like the way the other parents, there's a lot of media of the parents of children with muscular dystrophy saying things like, I was devastated when like little Sally got the diagnosis, and all the
Mm-hmm.
telethons, all those little, and my parents did not feel that way about me. My parents were like, my mom knew, she told me, she knew that when I was placed in her arms that I had something. She said, I noticed every freckle on your body. I noticed what color your eyes were. I noticed that you had that you were more floppy, and you're my second child. So I knew there was something. She didn't say something wrong. She said something. And that's key. But yeah, she was like, that was weird that these parents were like, talking about their children like that. Like,
How do you know when a nonprofit is authentic, to their goals and to their mission versus, being like you say, weird and just, kind of gimmicky?
well, here's the thing. So, well, and I think the MDA is really the perfect example of like red flags, because they're the biggest red flags.
Mhm.
So the MDA is who's running the MDA? Who's in charge? We're looking at that. And I
Mhm.
think like at least now there have been people higher up who have had muscular dystrophy, but not many. It is to it's who's running it. You know, how involved, like, are they with the people who are part of that? Like, people who are diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, like, are they, what is their relationship to them? Is it we just
Right.
provide service that we think is correct, or are they actively involved in like wanting to like provide what the community wants and needs?
Mhm.
And then how is their marketing? What's their narrative? What narrative are they pushing out? Muscular dystrophy, considering how many uh uh types of muscular dystrophy there are, there's like hundreds, I think. And considering that, why are the people that they're showing only looking a certain way? That doesn't,
Mhm.
is it intersectional? Is it diverse? And some conditions aren't, and okay, but muscular dystrophy definitely is. Another red flag is like, where's the money going? Muscular dystrophy like says that they serve the people with muscular dystrophy. I have been, since diagnosed since 4 years old, since 4 years old, they have not paid for any wheelchair, any home accommodation. They have not helped me deal with medical insurance. They have provided no service. I'm lucky that I came from a family where my parents could make up for that stuff, and they could, we figured it out. But MDA did not help. And when I did seek help from them, they were like, we can't do that. It's also the cure-all narrative. Like, that what that does is that allows for, if your focus is cure-all, what that does is that allows for that organization to avoid being held accountable for not doing anything to help make the world accessible or inclusive.
Right.
MDA is looking for a cure. They don't have time to, make sure that all the schools are, have ramps in them. No, we're looking for a cure. We, that's what we do. And they get all
Right.
the, and, and that way they also, again, if they curing all, that allows them to be like working towards a problem that they don't, could, for all we know, that could never happen. We don't know. And maybe that's somebody maybe there's a lot of people with muscular dystrophy that want a cure. That's fine. That's your own view.
Mhm.
I respect that. But like, if that's the only goal, that is harmful.
Right.
To be pushing that. you know. And I think also it's using children, poster
Hmm.
children, that I think that's, and sometimes, like, I don't know, like it's the whole like that whole telethon thing. Or have you seen like those St. Jude's commercials? And it's like, no,
Yep.
it's not good. And it feels, you know, it's how infantilization continues. And the fact
Right.
that no adults have been used in like MDA's marketing. Well, how do you think I'm going to be treated as an adult with muscular dystrophy? Like a child. Because that's what they think of like muscular dystrophy as a children, like a condition that only affects children,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
cures are normally just coded language for eugenics, you know,
Oh yeah.
such
Yeah.
a vague area. Uh, does the MDA even contribute to the community? Or are they just another version of like Autism Speaks, which I feel is a horrible organization?
That's a hate group, honestly. It is. I don't know how else to categorize autism speak, but I think MDA, I mean, so they like they have a summer camp that they put nationwide summer camps for kids with muscular dystrophy. And I went to them as a kid, and like I mean, that was a nice experience. Like, my siblings who are non-disabled got to go to summer camps, and I, was like really jealous. And I'm glad I got to have that experience because like I didn't, I just wanted to like be overnight away from my parents like any other kid, and having to, that just, what you gain through those experiences was important to me. And yeah, the MDA camp gave me that. It also was how I got connected to other people with muscular dystrophy.
Mhm.
Growing up, growing up, I grew up right just like as there was a shift in social media. Like social media became a thing when I was like in my teen years already. So, before then, like that, you know, this disabled people have historically been a community isolated from one another. So, yeah, places like camp like that allowed me to have access to other people within my community. That I liked, and it was free. It was completely free, which again, that's nice. But that's about it. Like that's all I can say. It's positive. I think yeah, I think generally they are very harmful. They do more harm than good. I camp is the only thing I can say really positively about the MDA. And I guess that, and it's a term now that the American public is familiar with. They don't have,
Mhm.
MDA did not put muscular dystrophy, like people don't know what that means because there's been a false narrative that has been, that they've, spread around about muscular dystrophy and what that means. But it's a term like when I say I have muscular dystrophy, like people know what that term is and it's not confusing. And that's a privilege, so,
Mhm.
um,
Did the insurance company, did they cover the
sorry, what?
did your insurance cover the camp costs?
Yes. Yep. And when I was growing up, it was you could go, I don't know what this, I mean, I think maybe they allowed kids as young as 5 or 6, and then you could go for a while, at least when I was growing up, you could go until you were 21, which I thought was problematic. Then insurance only like that stopped, I think, after I left, I was done with camp after 8th grade because kids don't go to camp after 8th grade. And it was like time to move on. I didn't want to be an adult camper. So, and again, that was one thing I thought was kind of weird at like MDA, how that affected the community was, you know, I understood wanting access to people who have muscular dystrophy and wanting to be around each other. I wanted that too. I wanted it to be in an adult setting when I was an adult. Like I know a lot of the MDA community continues to go to like adult summer camp, and it's weird. And it's like that's so infantilizing. That's something we're trying to fight, is not being treated like children. And that's exactly what who goes to camp? Kids. Like, call it a retreat. Don't, like, it's weird. But
Yeah,
yeah, I thought, yeah, I kind of that's where I sort of started to sort of distance myself from the community, because I had a very firm idea of like how I wanted to be seen and treated. And I felt that MDA really would put that in jeopardy if I, you know.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. My insurance company covered, when I went to camp, and we had to claim it as an intensive all-day therapy, and it technically was, but they still called it camp, to the insurance, and so.
I wonder, I'll have to ask my mom. Maybe that's probably what they probably did the same thing, I'm guessing. Because
Yeah,
why would insurance pay why would insurance pay for a freaking summer camp? Like that's they don't even
yeah.
pay for my wheelchairs half the time.
I went to a cerebral palsy day camp. Yeah. So let me ask. You were just speaking about the way that those spaces kind of treat people with disabilities, and we talking about the behaviors of ableism. You know, can you like share some examples or stories of where you've seen, people kind of that are ableist and you don't have to say any names or anything like that unless you want to, but just to kind of get the audience an idea of, ableism.
So in general, or as it connects to nonprofits, do you think?
Well, I guess in general be good.
What ableism is, it's a set of beliefs that revolve around the overall, it's a set of beliefs that put disabled people as inferior to non-disabled. And it is, so it's beliefs and practices that all sort of encompass this the general understanding, or a general conclusion that disabled individuals are inferior to non-disabled and do not belong.
Okay. In the arena of nonprofits, have you ever experienced any of that in that arena?
I mean, I think one thing that's very key about nonprofits that
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand is that, we're taught to believe that nonprofits do good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some really do. I'm not saying this is all nonprofits. I mean, my dad ran his own nonprofit for many years. It was a good nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
But, nonprofits, that, the goal should be to solve an issue, right? So let's take it outside disability. Let's say there's a charity that related to, the homeless population.
Okay.
Are there activities working to solve homelessness, or is it just putting a Band-Aid on there so that the people who probably aren't homeless that are working there can keep making money?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I, look at their activities, it's like, all right, well, I think a lot of organizations, and especially the people that work in them who are not part of the communities that they, are supposed to be serving, these are people are making money from those who are being served, as they're making money to the detriment,
Mm-hmm.
of oppressed people.
Right.
They are, and they're getting attention, money, admiration, a lot of stuff, a lot of benefits. And that will only continue if the issue is never solved. They can only
Mm-hmm.
continue to have that benefit. So if like I said, the MDA, if we, didn't, if the world, if ableism were eliminated tomorrow, there wouldn't be any need for MDA, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So people would be out of the job. So why would they want to solve problems?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about band-aids, And I
Yeah.
think
And the point is not to make money. That's the literal meaning of nonprofit, is to not profit from it.
Well,
When
that's the thing, though. It's what it's turned into in the United States. It's a capitalist, organization or nation. Like that, we run on capitalism, and there's no such thing as that doesn't. No, there's always a profit. And the
right,
reason why charity and nonprofit are so appealing is because you get to make money, and you get to do it with tax benefits, and you get to do it without people questioning you. And I mean,
mhm,
yeah, I mean, even like look at and then it goes to like religion too. Like, why do you think so? Like the Church of Scientology was established because it's tax beneficial. You can make as much
mhm.
money. Nobody questions you. I mean, we all know that they're crazy, but like, no, it's like if it wasn't Tom Cruise, like, like as the head of it, like, like maybe we wouldn't find them to be that crazy. It's like,
Right.
you know, yeah, like I think, yeah, people, and look at how many, when you open up a nonprofit and all these executives follow the money, it's all public. Look at how much these executives are making. Look at the person
Yeah.
who runs MDA. Look at how much that person is making. And look at how much, of that. Yeah, like it's follow the money. It's not good.
And let me ask, why do you think that non-disabled counterparts have such a hierarchy in becoming the authority in disability services?
Oh my God. It's just, I think one of the most frustrating things about being disabled is not being robbed of my right to take ownership over my own identity. I mean, oh my God.
Mm,
And as collectively as our right as a community, as a disabled people to take ownership over our own community. I mean, like in advocacy. I mean, I don't see it. I mean, good Lord, what if the NAACP was being run by a white person? Like
yeah.
that would be insane. Nobody that would be like that wouldn't even happen. There's no way.
Right.
Like, but for some reason, when it comes to disability, it is not only acceptable, but it is uh seen as almost more acceptable if it's a non-disabled person running these charities.
Yeah. I personally don't believe that non-disabled people should ever be the quote unquote big boss in businesses or services that cater towards our community. But it happens way more than it should. And, you know,
Because people really want to include us.
yeah,
They can't get rid of us though. They tried. They tried.
right. Yeah.
They didn't work. And then they looked over at Germany and they were like, that didn't work either. Okay, we got to deal with them. So, and from that, so not getting rid of us, the next best thing is to make sure that we are as we remain under control and
Right.
not and segregated,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, and like the ADA, these are not stupid people who wrote that law, and they wrote it with, enough holes in it intentionally
Hmm.
so that
Yeah.
oppression could continue. Every single civil rights law.
And it has definitely, just increased and worked in this pandemic. They just really exploited that opportunity.
Yes, they
How do you think we can change this over time?
um people are not going to see the light and like come to, you're not going to like do anything or say anything that's going to make somebody go, yeah, okay, no, that I was wrong. No, especially not people in power. It comes with unity and demand. And I mean, look at like no progress for any marginalized group in this country has occurred if it with by because the people in power are like, yeah, that sounds good. No, it's because their backs were up against the wall because they didn't have a choice,
Hmm.
and I think what's going to be really powerful too is so yeah, through unity and demand, but it's unity not just within the disability community. Intersectionality is key. And disability exists in all other communities, all other groups, all other identities. So we really like have a hand in like every single, kind of
Hmm.
room here. And that is power. And I think it's like we need to utilize the allyship that exists within, like, look at the, the 504 sit-in in the 70s, like, intersect that was successful because of intersectionality. Brad Lomax, who was disabled and also a Black Panther, called the Panthers up, and the Panthers came and get, were making meals and were the most wonderful allies. And that happened because of intersectionality, recognizing that and then connecting and working together. And that's like a perfect example of like the things that can get done.
Awesome. Awesome. And just, speaking about our allies, you have some that say they are allies, but they really aren't. Do you feel like these people are easy to spot?
Not in like, I mean, the way you can spot like, I don't know, like, no, not like immediately, but they're pretty quickly. Like, I mean, so performative allyship, like it's like, I think, at least for me, I get like a feeling. Like I get like this, like the way, when I go, the same feeling I get, well, it's not the exact same, but it's that same experience. Like when I'm going down like, a dark street in the middle of the night, I'm alone, and I have like somebody I can hear somebody behind me. I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna murder me. Like I just get this feeling that I'm not safe. And
Spidey senses.
yeah, and like maybe they're like nothing happens. Like, I mean, obviously I'm fine. Like I've always gotten home okay. I'm here. But like, it's this feeling of, okay, something's not right. I get that feeling around performative allyship too. There's this question, like, I mean, with a physical disability, like, it's that people think they're being subtle. They're really not. Like, I don't know. It can be as, um, because I know the way I approach people. I know the way I interact with people. And like, for example, when I'm talking to a little kid, that's a form of like being, because you're like, you talking high voice, hi, and and that's fine because kids are, or if you talk to like a puppy, it's like, that's not natural. The way that we interact with like, a cute little animal or a cute kid, that's not the way we interact with each other as adults. But I feel like that's how I know, is because I get that same sort of like, or this extra attention. And look at this whole situation. Like if I know I am in a room full of, if I'm at a business conference and I'm in, and like, and my boss, wants me to sit next to him. Why? I know you don't like me. I'm like, I'm always that personality higher.
Let me ask, and this is crazy that you mentioned Brad Lomax, because I just mentioned him at a speaking engagement I had this week. But do you think that people like your boss, when they do these things, should we call them out? I think they do. I think it does depend on the time, but I do think they need to be, kind of checked on that. What do you think?
So I think when I deal with encountering ableism with people, I kind of go by like the same. I give you the benefit of the doubt once, and that'll mean like, so I'll in good faith confront you privately the first time, and I'll kind of like, like let's say somebody uses the term like special needs and refers me to that. I will kind of take the time to be like, hey, that's not okay. And you now have the responsibility of showing me that you've taken that seriously, that you're, how they act after, is going to depend on whether I continue to like, but if it's, there's some people where it's like, I do that and then they continue. And then I'm like, now I'm going to call you out and you're going to be embarrassed. I always try to, because the goal is I want people to change. I don't want to like just embarrass them. I don't like, that's not why I want to call people out. My first goal is, can I change their behavior, change their mindset? Is that something I can do here? And I'll try that first. But very quickly I understand whether or not they are really capable of change. And when they're incapable of change, now I just want you to be too embarrassed to continue doing that in public. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's sort
Yeah.
of like you know, I have elderly people that I know that you know, use, you know, like they like will use terms that are just not okay anymore. I mean, even like
Mm-hmm.
I've had elderly people say call me like handicapped or like, yeah, like, and it's like, you know, and I it's like I feel like I know that they're probably unlikely to change, but
Mm-hmm.
I at least want to make, you know, then I at least want to, and elderly, I always try and be respectful anyway, because I just was raised to like try and be nice to old people, but like, I don't know. I feel like, but I will at least make it so like you don't want to, you know, then the motivation is you're not going to say that because you don't want to be embarrassed again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you know, yeah, I think if my grandmother, you know, both my, any of my grandparents, I think any of my grandparents probably would use like terms like handicapped, like, you know, but I've been very firm on how to refer to me. And so just on not wanting to like upset me, they know not like, maybe they really have changed their mind, but I think it's mostly just it's
Right.
like, you know, I don't want to have them
Yeah.
yell at me.
You know, it's a shame, but even the R word still gets, you know, tossed around there. And so just really, you know, like you said, correcting the people so that they know that that's not right. And, you know, just,
Yeah.
oh man, don't,
And
if you don't want to be embarrassed.
I also think, but you know, there are things, you know, that I have had to I've been confronted on. Yeah, I think back to like, there was one time I was in high school. This has always stuck with me. I made a
Mhm.
comment that like I had no intention of it being racist, but it was, and it was racist. And a classmate of mine called me out like in front of the rest of the class. And I was humiliated and I was like, but it stuck with me, and it was an important lesson that, you know, I needed to learn of like, you need to think about what you need to really think before you say something. And it was just, and now it really kind of sparked this a conscious mindset that I didn't have before. Um,
Mhm.
and I wish I could say that I was the kind of person who didn't need to learn that way, but I'm a human, and you know what? Like I did, and that it is what it is. I wasn't born with an enlightened mind. I have had to learn and unlearn a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes that is what motivates us to change, is like being in those uncomfortable situations.
Teachable moments.
Yeah.
Man, I love your transparency. That I really do. Listen,
Even as I
we
was
talk.
talking about that, my heart was racing. It like I was like,
Well, we talked about, you know, bad allyship. You know, let's talk about some good examples of true allyship that are shown by non-disabled people.
so I actually posted about this on my LinkedIn recently. And there's something that happened, you know, recently with my sister, you know, and it sparked this kind of thought in me. So I was at my cousin's wedding this summer or last summer. And
Mhm.
you know, like any other wedding ceremony, you're gonna have, you know, it's like sit, stand, sit, stand, sit. If it's a Catholic ceremony, there's some kneeling too. But this was, yeah, so I'm in a wheelchair. And I was in the back row because it was like, you know, under a tent, and that was just kind of where my chair always seems to end up, is in the back row. And
Hmm.
you know, but there was one point, you know, um, everybody stood, and it was like during kind of a moment like you would want to see, like, you know, what was going on. And you know, and this is like my cousin who, you know, and you know, everybody's standing, and I'm used to that. I like, I grew up going to church, like I, you know, I knew that was coming. I was not, it was still kind of like, but I was still kind of like, you know, just like, you know, roll your eyes like, all right, it's this part of the.
Hmm.
And my sister, my sister, everybody stood up. My sister remained seated. She didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. And she just was, and I thought she was like, I was going to be like, either like, bitch, stand up, or like, or I was going to be like, like, or like, are you hurt? Like I was really confused first. And then I realized that she just, she was just being there with me because she knew. And I just made me think of like allyship is doesn't, it's when somebody is with you in the moments when you expect to be alone, you know?
Mm,
And
mm,
and that's what my sister did. And I realized like not only was she there for me in that moment, like she had seen me in all these other moments too throughout my life. And she was makes me want to tear up a little bit. Like she was just like there and she saw me and I felt so seen and understood. And it wasn't dramatic. She didn't like, look at me and like like, she didn't need any acknowledgement. She was so chill. It was like not even a thing. And that's allyship. That was what that was. That's the embodiment of what that
right.
is. And sometimes they're more grandiose gestures, but I think honestly, in the moments, yeah, where you expect to be alone, like it's easy if somebody says like yells a derogatory term to me, like, hey, special needs girl, like down the street, it's easy to stand up for like, because there's drama, you know,
Hmm.
but in those moments where like nobody's looking and it's of no benefit to that, if there's when there's no benefit or no, you know, way for that non-disabled person to really, make it about them, those are allies, like,
Authentic.
yeah. Or, I think of, you know, my my mom who like, I was Miss like fashion gossip girl, like fashion all the time in high school. I loved it. And I would just, but getting dressed was hard. And my mom, like, no matter what I wanted to wear, like we were getting that on. And however I want to do my hair, she like, she could have been like literally wanting to like yell at me, scream at me. I was a pain in the ass kid. Um, she still did my hair and she understood the dignity of that. And like, it wasn't, I don't know, or the way people talk about you, like my parents never, I noticed a lot of parents like they'll always say like, oh, even when it's not necessary to always say I'm disabled when you're describing me. Like if you're talking about like, if my dad was saying something like, oh, my daughter Emma just moved to New York, she's really excited about her new apartment. It would be like that's a normal way to say that. But if my dad never, I noticed a lot of parents would probably say something like, yeah, my daughter just moved to New York, she's in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? Like that's performative. And it's not allyship, and it looks like it because it's a parent being like, look at my kid, I'm not ashamed. You're you're othering your kid when you do that. And that's not being an ally. And I think just when people are chill and they're subtle and they're like not, it's just
Hmm.
yeah. And those people because it's the people that don't, they're not the drama.
Right. It's genuine. Real
Yeah.
genuine. I love that. Listen, what advice would you give to someone who is wanting to start a profit? And this can be for anyone, disabled or not.
I think if you're a non-disabled person who wants to start a nonprofit that centers in around disabled people, or or centers around any group of people that's marginalized, don't unless you're going to like be the second in command.
Mm.
Like you can't be in charge.
Love
Like
it.
that's not
Love
for you. Like I just don't think that if you're not a part of that community, you are like it's not that non-disabled people or and if you are in if the organization you want to open is supposed to serve a community that you're not a part of, you cannot stand alone like in those decision making and that like you need to do so with the majority of the people around you who also share in those decisions and the design and everything. They need to be people who are part of that community,
it.
you
Right.
know like let's say somebody wanted to start a nonprofit for to help center around people with Down syndrome. Well, you like maybe you're see the person who's in charge of all the finances is not, it doesn't have Down syndrome, but the person who's in charge of marketing should be the person who's
Mhm.
in charge of of fundraising, of like how what that looks like, the person in charge, the person who's, you know, the spokesperson, all of those people, and the person who decides on the policies and where the money is going and all that stuff. Those need to be people with Down syndrome.
Right. Man, that is awesome. Awesome. Are there resources available to help someone start out there that you know of?
To start a nonprofit?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I've never run a nonprofit myself, so I know that, like, you know, if you want to start one, you definitely can. There's like, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, my dad did it. Not that he's not smart. It's just, I think, but I think really the best way to do that, to get started, if you want to, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think diversibility, quite honest, what you and I are both, like, how I, met you, like, I really like that because there's just opportunities to be visible. And I think that's kind of important. So, like, like, I know that, through that, I started my podcast I'm going to be launching this month. And, like, I don't know if I not through that, like, did anybody like give me a resource that like helped me like construct it? No, but like I have a network now that can that, and there's lots of different things that there's lots of different benefits that come from a network. I mean, I was like actually kind of shocked at the amount of people that wanted to like speak to me and be guests. I was like, I thought I was gonna get like 4 people. I like started getting people not only like over like within the first like week, I got like 100 people like making appointments with me. Not in just like people from like in the UK, like random, like Slovakia, random place across the world. What? I was like,
I love that network. That's key right there. Diversity and network.
yeah,
Awesome.
you can get anything done. Like, and amplifying, I think, again, collaboration. Like, I know I can't get anything done for the disability community alone. I can't. That's why I want to talk to other people. And I also know that, like, considering how diverse disability is, my lived experience, I'm not going to be able to understand disability like as a whole. Like, I understand my experience, my education gives me a little bit more insight, but like I can't speak for everybody who's disabled. Oh my God, that's so ignorant. No, it needs to be done in collaboration. And I think that's also like, considering that that's the case even for people within the disability community, non-disabled people, that they don't even like running nonprofits, like we don't even have all the insight as individuals. What? No. So you definitely don't. You don't know.
It's the only exclusive space we have in diversibility. Is we own that.
Yeah.
What was there anything else that you wanted to discuss today that maybe we didn't touch on?
I think like really just what I want, I think what I hope will happen, is, I think, visibility. I understand the appeal, where nonprofits that are performative and are not good, where they continue to hold power is because they know that disabled people want to feel seen and heard, and they exploit that. And I want disabled people to, like, especially like, for example, those with muscular dystrophy, like MDA is not the only, your only outlet to be seen and heard. We're out there and we will help you. Like people that are like disabled people, we can help each other. We can create visibility for each other. We don't need non-disabled people's, to help us get anywhere. We've done everything on our own. We are capable, and we, I just encourage those who are disabled, like, don't give them that power. You don't need to. You already have it. We already have
it. Awesome. Emma, man, I thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation with me. And I hope that you have enjoyed this as much as I did. Man, I just really appreciate the insights that you provided. And I can't wait to be on your podcast.
Yes. Oh my God, no, you like because I think I signed up for this like just as I was gonna launch mine, and you're the first one that I was like, yep, you're top priority.
Hey, so if people want to connect with you and support the work that you're doing, how can they do so?
So I am active on LinkedIn. I can be emailed at emma.farley@unsilentthepodcast.com.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would say right now mostly through LinkedIn. I'm trying to build like websites and stuff. It's slow progress. So LinkedIn is probably the best way to get to me.
Mhm. Well, I will make sure to share everything in my description below. And once again, thank you, Emma. And I'm Sean Gold, and I thank everyone for watching. And make sure you like, comment, and share all of your thoughts and subscribe. Also, make sure that the bell is on to be notified of each upload. And I'll see you all next time on another episode of Crippled by Culture.
Want to listen to Crippled by Culture on your favorite podcast platform? Well, now you can. Crippled by Culture is now available wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search up the show title and make sure you subscribe. Thank you for being a listener.